Chapter 1. Death is not the end. Ling Wu jolted awake, his entire body ice cold, his breath heavy as if something invisible was pressing down on him. His eyes widened, met with a suffocating darkness. The ceiling was peeling, the walls stained with blood, and the stench of mold and decay filled his nostrils. This was not his military camp, nor the battlefield, but a desolate hospital. The last thing he remembered was a brutal battle. Bodies collapsing, desperate screams, the deafening roar of gunfire. Had he died? Or was this just a never-ending nightmare? Ling Wu pressed his hands against the floor, but something immediately felt off. A strange coldness clung to his skin. His coat was in tatters, the light armor beneath cracked and ruined. But the strangest thing of all, there were no wounds. No pain, no blood, not even a bruise. What the hell? He muttered, clenching his fists to steady himself. A clicking sound echoed from the corner of the room. A staggering shadow emerged from the dimly lit hallway. It moved sluggishly, its feet dragging against the cold tiles. A corpse. Ling Wu instinctively reached for a weapon, but his gun was gone. Only a blood-stained dagger lay abandoned on the floor. He grabbed it tightly, his breath slowing. His heart didn't pound with fear. On the contrary, a terrifying calmness washed over him. Zombies usually detected prey through sound or the scent of blood, but the creature in front of him didn't react when he stood up. It simply remained still, its head tilting slightly, as if it was observing him. Ling Wu narrowed his eyes. Why wasn't it attacking? He took a cautious step back, deliberately dragging his foot against the ground to make noise. This time, the creature twitched slightly but still didn't lunge. It only sniffed the air, as if trying to identify something unfamiliar. A chill ran down his spine. What have I become? His soldier's instincts kicked in. Ling Wu quickly assessed his own body. His strength hadn't diminished. In fact, his reflexes felt even sharper. His breathing was unnaturally steady, controlled to the point that he could sense even the slightest movements in the air. Even with his eyes closed, he could feel the presence of countless undead creatures wandering through the building. A static-like crackling sound echoed from the distance. Ling Wu snapped his head around, his pupils constricting. A group of zombies was approaching, but unlike the sluggish one from earlier, these moved like a pack of predators. There was no time to think. He bolted down the hallway, weaving through broken doors and collapsed walls. The building trembled under the force of the undead slamming against the glass. Ling Wu spun mid-stride, slashing his dagger across the throat of one of the zombies. Black blood sprayed out, but what stunned him the most was how quickly he reacted. Faster than what should be humanly possible. No time to hesitate. He sprinted down the stairwell, searching for an exit, but just as he reached the ground floor, a figure appeared in front of him. "Get down!" a sharp voice commanded. A gunshot rang out, the bullet slicing through the air and embedding itself in the forehead of the zombie pursuing him. Ling Wu rolled to the side, his grip tightening around his dagger. Before him stood a woman clad in lightweight military armor, a pistol firmly in her grasp, her deep brown eyes filled with caution. Tao Yao. He recognized her instantly, a former combat medic, an old comrade. But the way she looked at him now, there was no trust in her gaze. "You're alive?" she asked coldly, her gun never lowering. Ling Wu exhaled sharply, raising both hands in a non-threatening gesture. She was suspicious of him. Of course she was. A man who had died suddenly appearing again, completely unscathed? Anyone would be wary. "I don't know what happened," he said slowly. "I just remember, I died." Tao Yao bit her lip, her eyes flickering with doubt. But before she could question him further, the distant wails of the undead echoed through the air. There was no time to argue. She tossed him a backup knife. "If you're still human, then prove it. Help me survive." Together, they dashed out of the hospital. The world outside was nothing short of hell on earth. Collapsed buildings, burnt-out cars, corpses littering the streets. The sky was an ashen gray, sunlight barely piercing through the thick dust clouds. Tao Yao led him to a temporary base hidden within an abandoned residential block. She secured the doors, then quickly checked their supplies. "The situation is worse than you think," she said, her voice grim. Ling Wu sat down, still trying to piece everything together. He watched her, waiting for answers. "Civilization has fallen. The government is gone. The last remaining shelters are under siege. We have no idea what's happening to this world." She paused, her gaze lingering on him as if studying his reaction. "But what worries me the most is you." She lowered her voice. "You are no longer human." Ling Wu remained silent. Chapter 2. The Ruined City. The sky stretched endlessly, a dull, gray expanse looming over what was once a bustling city, now reduced to heaps of rubble. Skyscrapers stood fractured, their shattered windows reflecting faint rays of sunlight filtering through the dusty air. The streets were littered with burnt-out vehicles, and decomposing corpses lay scattered, painting a scene straight out of hell. Ling Wu moved cautiously beside Tao Yao, his sharp gaze sweeping every corner, missing no sign of movement. His grip tightened around a military knife, while she held a pistol firmly in her hands. "Who exactly are we looking for?" His deep voice broke the eerie silence. Tao Yao didn't turn back, only murmured just loud enough for him to hear. "Lu Chen. He's the leader of a shelter group. If we want to survive, we have to find them." Ling Wu didn't respond, but a flicker crossed his eyes. Lu Chen, name he wasn't unfamiliar with. A seasoned warrior, someone who would risk his life to protect his people. But was he still alive? They moved carefully through a narrow alley, its walls smeared with dried blood. Scattered zombie corpses littered the ground, some cleaved in half, others shot clean through the skull. Signs of a recent battle were evident. Suddenly, a noise sounded from behind them. Tao Yao reacted instantly, drawing her dagger and turning, while Ling Wu stepped back, slowing his breathing. Someone was there. But who? A large figure lunged from the rubble beside them. Fast. Unlike the sluggish undead, this one moved with astonishing speed. Ling Wu instinctively dodged, leaning away as a powerful punch whizzed past his face. He countered with a backward kick, but the opponent was just as quick, stepping back and shifting into a defensive stance. As the dust settled, the attacker's face became visible. "Lu Chen," Tao Yao exclaimed, lowering her weapon. The tall man before them had short hair, streaked with silver, and piercing eyes that held exhaustion. His clothes were tattered, bearing minor wounds, though none seemed serious. His grip on his gun remained firm, wary. "Tao Yao?" Lu Chen's voice was rough, laced with surprise, but almost immediately, his gaze locked onto Ling Wu, suspicion evident in his eyes. "Who is he?" Tao Yao stepped forward quickly, attempting to explain. "He's Ling Wu, a former soldier. I found him at the hospital." Instead of easing, Lu Chen's expression darkened. "He survived waking up in a hospital? Without a single wound?" Ling Wu clenched his fists, feeling the weight of Lu Chen's distrust. This was not going to be an easy meeting. They were brought to the shelter, a dilapidated apartment complex reinforced with steel and wood, turning it into a small fortress amidst the ruins. Inside, around 20 survivors gathered, each carrying the same cautious, wary gaze. The moment Ling Wu stepped in, whispers broke out. "Who is he? Where did he come from? Are we sure he's not infected?" Tension spread quickly. A tall, gaunt man with a long scar across his cheek stepped forward, eyes burning with hostility. "We can't trust him," he spat, glaring at Ling Wu. "No one survives a hospital full of infected without a scratch. If he's infected, he'll wipe us all out." Tao Yao started to speak, but Ling Wu moved first, stepping forward to meet the hostile stares head-on. "I am not a zombie." His voice was low but carried undeniable authority. No one responded, but the air thickened with doubt. Trust was never easy to gain. Amidst the tension, a voice echoed inside Ling Wu's head. "Join us." His body stiffened, a chilling sensation creeping down his spine. This voice, it wasn't human. It was deep, resonant, like a whisper rising from beneath the earth. An unnatural feeling coiled inside him, like something awakening within his mind. He narrowed his eyes, trying to push away the intrusive voice, but the sensation clung to him relentlessly. What was this? A hallucination? Or was it a part of whatever had changed his body? Before he could find an answer, a massive explosion rocked the building. The blast sent tremors through the floor, followed by the echo of frantic screams from below. Zombies! They're attacking! Lu Chen wasted no time, drawing his gun and barking orders. Block all entry points! Don't let them in! Ling Wu and Su Yao rushed to the hall, weapons raised. Outside, shadowy figures moved in the darkness, but something was off. These weren't normal undead. The smaller ones scuttled up the walls, navigating like they knew exactly where to strike. Behind them, larger creatures moved in formation, not mindless, not reckless, but organized. What the hell? Sun Yao muttered, fingers tightening on her trigger. Ling Wu's unease deepened. These were not ordinary zombies. They had intelligence. Amidst the swarming undead, a tall, eerie figure emerged. Its skin was pale, its eyes burning red, glowing ominously in the night. It didn't charge mindlessly. It stood still, staring directly at Ling Wu, as if it recognized him. And then, the voice returned, colder than before. So you've awakened? It's time to choose, Ling Wu. A sharp pain stabbed through his skull. Flickering images flashed in his mind. Experiments, blood, and a pair of crimson eyes belonging to something not human. Gunfire erupted, screams echoed, but Ling Wu remained still, fists clenched. He needed answers. And he knew, whatever was happening, Lu Chen was hiding something. Chapter 3. The Mystery of the Resurrection Virus. The gunfire had ceased, but the acrid scent of gunpowder still lingered in the air, mingling with the stench of charred flesh. Corpses of zombies lay scattered across the ground, some still twitching before finally going still. Ling Wu took a deep breath, gripping his blood-stained dagger tightly. The recent assault had not been an ordinary attack. These zombies were organized, tactical. They knew how to coordinate their strikes. And more importantly, they knew who he was. They're not acting on instinct. Lu Chen broke the heavy silence. They have a leader. All eyes turned to him. Su Yao wiped a streak of blood from her forehead, her voice dropping low. So, someone is controlling them? A quiet chuckle broke the tension. It's not just someone. The group turned to Han Bai. A man standing silently in the shadowed corner of the room. His sharp eyes were cold, his voice devoid of emotion. I've seen this before. Ling Wu frowned. Han Bai stepped forward, nudging a zombie corpse with the tip of his boot. He crouched down, examining the lifeless eyes of the creature. These zombies didn't develop intelligence on their own. They're being controlled. A heavy silence fell over the room. No one spoke, but suspicion flickered in their eyes. Han Bai drew a knife, pointing the tip toward Ling Wu. And I think you felt it too, haven't you? Ling Wu clenched his fists. Han Bai was right. The voice in his head, the vague hallucinations, and the strange sensation of standing among the zombies without being attacked immediately. Lu Chen crossed his arms, his voice calm but weighted. This isn't the first time it has happened. Everyone turned to him. Before we lost contact with the government, I received a classified report, Lu Chen said slowly. There was evidence suggesting that some entity is controlling the undead. The government called it. He hesitated for a moment, his gaze darkening. The Undead King. The air in the room turned cold. Su Yao swallowed hard. The Undead King? Are you saying there's a single entity controlling all the zombies out there? Lu Chen nodded. It's not just any zombie. It has evolved far beyond the rest. And more importantly, his eyes locked onto Ling Wu. It seems very interested in you. Ling Wu said nothing. A dull ache pulsed in his head, like something was trying to call out to him. Then, in an instant he heard it. Ling Wu, you belong to us. Ling Wu's eyes darkened. His breath grew ragged. Blurred images flashed in his mind. Corpses, a towering shadow, and glowing red eyes. Come back! You are not humans. He stumbled back, clutching his temples. Sun Yao rushed to his side, steadying him. Ling Wu, what's wrong? He gasped for breath, cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. That voice. It wasn't his own. He's here, Ling Wu muttered, his vision unfocused. He's watching us. At that moment, a monstrous roar echoed outside. Darkness crept in through the shattered windows. The zombies were attacking again. They're coming! A chorus of guttural screams erupted from outside. The zombies were no longer swarming mindlessly, they were attacking with coordination. "Hold the windows! Don't let a single one in," Lu Chen commanded. Lingwu gritted his teeth, forcing himself to focus. The headache still lingered, but he had no time to dwell on it. He lunged toward the door, slashing his blade across the neck of a zombie crawling through a hole in the barricade. Blackened blood splattered, but the creature didn't fall immediately. "They're stronger than before!" Su Yao shouted. Lingwu spun, driving a forceful kick into the zombie's chest, shoving it back outside. But before he could react further, a shadow lunged straight at him. He barely had time to see the glowing red eyes. And then his body refused to move. Time seemed to stop. Lingwu felt something pulling his mind downward into an abyss of darkness. Before him, the zombies suddenly froze. He watched as they halted mid-attack, their bodies trembling as if awaiting orders. He didn't know why, but instinctively he raised his hand, and then the zombies stopped attacking him. For a fleeting moment they stood still. A terrifying silence blanketed the battlefield. "What the hell?" Han Bai murmured in disbelief. Lingwu slowly lowered his hand, his heartbeat pounding in his chest. What had he just done? Outside, hidden in the shadows, a quiet chuckle echoed. "Well done, Lingwu. You're improving." Chapter 4. An invitation from Yan Ye. Darkness swallowed everything. Lingwu opened his eyes, but the scene before him was distorted, as if he were looking at the world through a shattered mirror. A low, guttural growl echoed in the air, cold and ominous. His entire body was rigid. He was bound. Before his consciousness fully returned, he recalled the last moments of the battle at the base. The zombies had surrounded him, but strangely, they hadn't attacked like usual. They had simply stood there, waiting. And then, a shadow had emerged. Yan Ye. A deep, familiar voice echoed in his mind. "Finally, you've arrived." Lingwu clenched his teeth and yanked at his arms, trying to break free, only to realize he was chained to a cold metal chair. The restraints around his wrists and ankles weren't ordinary, they glowed faintly, radiating an unfamiliar energy. He lifted his head and saw that he was in an abandoned ruin. Cracked pillars, a fractured ceiling, vines creeping along the walls. But most importantly, the stench of rotting flesh lingered in every corner. "Where are you keeping me?" he growled, his gaze sharp as a blade. The darkness before him shifted slightly. A deep voice resonated through the air. "Welcome, Lingwu." From the shadows, Yan Ye stepped forward. He was taller than any zombie Lingwu had ever encountered. Almost human, but not quite. His eyes were a deep, glowing crimson, like an abyss with no end. His skin was pale, yet not in the decayed, rotting manner of ordinary zombies. He wore a tattered black cloak, his body encased in glowing bone-like armor, resembling a king risen from the depths of hell. Yan Ye smiled, but there was no warmth, no life in it. "Do you feel strange in your own body?" Lingwu's fists tightened. The echoes of zombie wails pulsed in his mind. "What are you talking about?" Yan Ye slowly circled him, his movements deliberate, calculated. "You are no longer human." He sat across from Lingwu, resting his elbows on the armrest, his glowing eyes piercing straight into Lingwu's soul. "I can feel my blood flowing within you. We share the same lineage." Lingwu's gaze narrowed. "Stop spewing nonsense." But inside him, something felt off. Why could he control zombies? Why hadn't they attacked him on sight? Why did Yan Ye feel so familiar? Yan Ye let out a quiet chuckle, as if he could read Lingwu's thoughts. "You've already begun to realize it, haven't you?" Lingwu remained silent. He didn't want to believe it. But the truth was becoming undeniable. "You can deny it all you want, but your body has already chosen its own path." Yan Ye stood up and extended a hand toward him. "Come with me, Lingwu." Lingwu hesitated. "What do you want from me?" "To become my successor." The words struck him like a hammer. "You're insane." Yan Ye laughed. "Insane? Or is it just that you aren't ready to face the truth?" He turned his back to Lingwu, his gaze distant. "Humanity is doomed. They fight, but soon they will be crushed. This world will belong to a single race, and I want you to stand by my side." He turned back, locking eyes with Lingwu. "Together, we will rule this world." Silence hung in the air. Lingwu looked down at his hands, then at the glowing chains binding him. Yan Ye was right about one thing. He was no longer the same human he once was. "But I refuse." Yan Ye raised an eyebrow. "Why?" Lingwu met his gaze, his voice unwavering. "Because I am not you." Yan Ye studied him for a long moment, before letting out a low chuckle. "I expected this." He lifted his hand. Instantly, the zombies surrounding them roared, lunging toward Lingwu. But in that instant, Lingwu felt it. A surge of power exploded within him, and this time, he was in control. He sprang to his feet, yanking his arms forward. The chains shattered into pieces. The horde of zombies froze, trembling at his presence. Yan Ye's eyes gleamed with intrigue. "Good." Lingwu said nothing more. He turned and sprinted toward the exit. Behind him, Yan Ye's laughter echoed through the shadows. "You'll return, Lingwu. You will have to choose." Lingwu dashed through the ruined complex, his heart pounding. When he finally reached the base, every pair of eyes locked onto him. Tao Yao stepped forward, her expression filled with worry. "Where have you been?" Lingwu panted, sweat dripping from his forehead. He wanted to tell her everything. Deep inside, a question gnawed at him. Was humanity truly worth protecting? Darkness still loomed over his mind, and Yan Ye was still waiting for his answer. Chapter 5. Reunion with the Past. After the battle with Yan Ye, Lingwu's group faced a dire problem. Their resources were running low. The wounded needed treatment, but their medical supplies were nearly depleted. Without additional provisions, the base wouldn't hold out for much longer. Lu Chen made the decision to organize a supply run to an abandoned hospital in the city. It was a dangerous location, but it was the only place they could still hope to find antibiotics and medical tools. Lingwu, Tao Yao, Han Bai, and a few others took on the mission. Before departing, Lingwu felt an odd sensation. Visions of Yan Ye continued to haunt his dreams, and the strange connection he felt with the zombies was growing stronger. He wasn't sure if this was a blessing or a curse, but there was no time to dwell on it now. As they neared the hospital, the group paused to observe. The old building stood in decay, its shattered windows reflecting the dim light. Dried blood splattered across the walls. There was no sign of life, yet Lingwu knew the place was far from safe. Han Bai signaled for the group to move in a tight formation, entering through the back door. Inside, darkness consumed everything. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the silence was suffocating. They quickly split up to search for medicine. Tao Yao and Lingwu headed toward the pharmacy storage, while Han Bai inspected the hallways. But the moment Lingwu stepped into a dimly lit room, a faint noise sounded behind him. He turned, knife drawn. A shadow moved past. Not a zombie, but a person. From the dark corner, a figure emerged, and the instant Lingwu saw her silver-gray eyes, he froze. "Qingyi?" His voice dropped to a whisper, disbelief washing over him. She was alive? Impossible. The last time he had seen her, the world had already crumbled, and no one had believed she could have survived. Yet there she was. Thinner, her face gaunt, yet still carrying the same cold sharpness as before. Her long black hair was tangled, her clothes worn but surprisingly intact, free from any signs of a zombie attack. Tao Yao stepped forward, instinctively raising her gun. "You're still alive." Her voice dripped with suspicion. Qingyi didn't react. Her gaze remained locked onto Lingwu. "I knew you were alive," she said, her voice eerily calm. The words made Tao Yao pause, but they only deepened Lingwu's confusion. "You knew?" Qingyi nodded, but before she could say more, an unusual sound echoed down the hall. Han Bai appeared, his eyes razor-sharp as he assessed Qingyi. "Who is she?" Lu Chen had also heard the noise and entered the room. The moment his gaze landed on Qingyi, his expression darkened. "I don't know if I can trust you," he muttered, his voice low. "Where have you been all this time?" Qingyi remained silent, as if debating whether to reveal the truth. At last, Qingyi exhaled deeply, her silver-gray eyes scanning everyone. "The zombies don't attack me." A heavy silence fell over the room. Lu Chen frowned. "What are you saying?" Qingyi crossed her arms, unwavering. "They never attack me, no matter how many I walk through." Han Bai narrowed his eyes. "Are you infected?" Qingyi shook her head. No, I'm still human. That made things even more unsettling. Why wouldn't the zombies attack her? Lingwu felt an eerie sensation creeping into his mind. He knew the virus had changed many things, and people like him or Yan Ye shared an unusual connection with the undead. But why was Qingyi immune? What did it mean? Su Yao pressed her lips together, her voice cold. Then why are you appearing now? Qingyi didn't answer. She simply turned her gaze to Lingwu, as if waiting for something from him. The tension in the air thickened. Su Yao couldn't hide her irritation, and Qingyi had no intention of backing down. I did what I had to do to survive, Qingyi said, her voice carrying a cryptic edge. What did you do? Su Yao demanded, her tone sharp as a blade. Qingyi hesitated, then finally answered. I've uncovered some secrets about this virus, but I have no intention of explaining them to you. That only made Su Yao angrier. You think you're the only one who knows things? She stepped forward, eyes burning with emotion. You show up after all this time, spouting vague nonsense, and expect us to trust you? You've always been like this, Qingyi, always acting like you know everything. Lingwu sighed. If he didn't step in, the two women would likely tear into each other. Enough. His voice was firm. Now's not the time for this. Su Yao bit her lip but didn't argue further. Before another word could be spoken, a dreadful sound came from outside. The slow, dragging steps of the undead. But this time, something was different. They were moving in formation. Han Bai immediately drew his weapon, but when the window shattered, everyone fell silent. A group of zombies stood there. But they didn't attack. They simply stood, as if waiting. And then, from the distance, a voice echoed. Deep, chilling, and hauntingly familiar to Lingwu. Lingwu, you will have to choose soon. Darkness loomed over them. A dull ache pulsed through Lingwu's head, a sensation he couldn't shake. Yan Ye was still watching him. And this time, he wanted an answer. Chapter 6. The Battle at the Eastern Gate. The sky was a bleak shade of gray, thick with the stench of blood and the oppressive weight of destruction. The towering walls of the shelter trembled under the eerie growls of the approaching zombies. The Eastern Gate, also known as the most critical exits, had suddenly become a battlefield of life and death. From the watchtower, a frantic voice shouted, "They're coming! The monsters have surrounded the Eastern Gate." Lu Chen clenched his fists, his sharp gaze sweeping over the battlefield. In the distance, waves of zombies were advancing in an unsettlingly organized manner. They were no longer mindlessly charging forward, but moving in coordinated formations, as if guided by an invisible hand. What the hell is this? Han Bai muttered, his hand resting on the hilt of his knife. Su Yao rushed to the medical ward, preparing supplies for the wounded. Meanwhile, Lingwu narrowed his eyes, his heartbeat steady. A strange sensation crept into his mind. These zombies, they didn't seem entirely mindless. Lingwu, get down here! Lu Chen ordered. Without hesitation, Lingwu climbed down from the defensive wall. Below, the survivors were scrambling to prepare their weapons. Rifles, crossbows, Molotovs, everything was set for a desperate battle. We have to stop them right at the gate, Lu Chen roared. Don't let them break through! Unbeknownst to them, lurking behind the horde was a force far more terrifying, waiting for its moment. Amidst the chaos, Lingwu charged forward alongside Han Bai. His blade sliced cleanly through an attacking zombie. But then, something strange happened. One of the zombies abruptly froze, its lifeless eyes flickering with a hint of hesitation. Lingwu could feel it, an inexplicable sense that he could command it to stop. Lingwu, watch out! Su Yao screamed. Startled, he swiftly decapitated the creature. But in his mind, a deep, resonant voice echoed. You're beginning to sense it, aren't you? He gritted his teeth. No, this was impossible. Han Bai observed closely, his sharp eyes unyielding. What did you just do? Lingwu shook his head. I don't know. Lu Chen also noticed the anomaly but had no time to question it. The battle was far from over. Lu Chen quickly took charge. Front barricades! Use the Molotovs! Homemade explosives were hurled, erupting into roaring flames that consumed clusters of zombies. Thick, black smoke billowed into the sky. Han Bai moved swiftly across the battlefield, his blade slicing effortlessly through rotting flesh. Lingwu and Lu Chen fought side by side, while Su Yao rushed to tend to the wounded. But these weren't ordinary zombies. They dodged, they coordinated their attacks. "They are learning to fight," a soldier shouted in panic. There was no doubt now, someone was controlling these creatures. Amidst the turmoil, Su Yao spotted an injured survivor lying motionless. She rushed forward, but at the same time, Zhao Qingyi appeared. "Move aside, I'll handle this," Su Yao said urgently, inspecting the wound. Zhao Qingyi crossed her arms, her gaze sharp. "I don't need your help. I have my own methods." "Your methods?" "This is a human life, not an experiment." "You think I don't care?" Zhao Qingyi snapped. Their eyes clashed, tension crackling in the air. They both knew that this conflict wasn't just about medical treatment, it was about Lingwu. But there was no time for argument. A deafening explosion echoed from the fortress walls. Another wave of zombies was breaching the defenses. Lingwu staggered back, struggling to steady his breath. But then, a sharp pain pierced his mind. "You're resisting your true nature, Lingwu." He froze. That voice, Yan Ye, he wasn't here. But his presence seeped into Lingwu's consciousness. "You are one of us. You can stop all this meaningless death. All you need to do is abandon your humanity." A chill ran down Lingwu's spine. "No, I am not you." "Lingwu, are you okay?" Su Yao called out, panicked. He shook his head violently, forcing himself back to reality. No. He was still human. He couldn't give in now. But deep inside, he knew Yan Yi had begun to influence him. Han Bai, Lu Chen, and the remaining fighters pushed back the zombie horde. The barricades were reinforced, and the undead numbers dwindled. After more than 3 hours of relentless combat, the attack finally ceased. But this was no victory. "They retreated in formation," Lu Chen said gravely. This wasn't a random attack. They were testing our response." Lingwu gazed into the distance, where shadows slowly faded beyond the horizon. Yan Ye was waiting, and the real battle had only just begun. Chapter 7. The origin of Yan Ye. The battle at the East Gate had ended. The walls had been reinforced, and the zombies gradually retreated in an unusual manner. It was not a chaotic escape, but a well-organized withdrawal. A clear sign that they were following someone's orders. In the darkness, the name Yan Ye surfaced in Lingwu's mind like a warning. The group gathered at the base, surrounded only by the crackling flames consuming the partially destroyed walls. Lingwu sat on a wooden crate, his hands resting on his knees, his gaze deep and thoughtful as he stared at the ground. Han Bai stepped forward, his sharp eyes scanning Lingwu before shifting to the others. "I've seen this before." His voice was hoarse, devoid of emotion. Su Yao raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Han Bai took a deep breath before speaking slowly. "Years ago, while working for a secret organization, I came across an experiment, an ancient project designed to create immortal warriors, what you now call Yan Ye." Lingwu clenched his fists. "Are you saying that Yan Ye is not just an ordinary zombie?" "No." Han Bai met his gaze. "He is a failed human experiment." Silence filled the room. A chill ran down everyone's spine at those words. Lu Chen spoke in a low voice. "If that's true, we need to uncover his origins." All eyes turned to him. He continued, "There is an old research facility in the northern part of the city. From what I know, it was once the center of development for this virus." Zhao Qingyi nodded, her silver-gray eyes flashing. "If there's data there, we might find Yan Ye's weakness." However, Lu Chen shook his head. "That place is dangerous. I'm not sure we can leave unscathed." "We don't have a choice." Lingwu stood up, his voice firm. The group exchanged glances before finally agreeing to set out at dawn. On the way to the research facility, Zhao Qingyi silently examined a vial containing a sample of the virus she had collected from the evolved zombies. She wanted to analyze it immediately, but just as she reached for her portable testing device, a strong hand grabbed her wrist. "Lu Chen, what are you doing?" His voice was tense. Zhao Qingyi frowned and pulled her hand back, trying to uncover the truth. "Do you realize how dangerous that could be?" Lu Chen lowered his voice, but his concern was evident. "This virus keeps mutating. If you trigger the wrong mechanism, it could evolve right in our hands." Su Yao stepped in between them. "Come on, not now. We don't have time for this." Zhao Qingyi tightened her grip on the vial, her expression cold, but she put it away without another word. Ling Wu observed the exchange, but inside, he was fighting a different battle. Since the battle at the East Gate, Yan Ye's voice in his mind had become clearer. You don't belong to the humans. You are one of us. Ling Wu shut his eyes, trying to silence the voice. But the truth haunted him. Why didn't the zombies attack him like they did the others? Why could he sense Yan Ye's presence? Zhao Qingyi quietly observed him, as if she had noticed something. Are you all right? She asked softly. Ling Wu didn't answer. He wasn't sure if he was. As the group approached the research facility, a horrifying sight awaited them. Dozens of zombies stood in neat rows before the entrance, not wandering aimlessly. They did not snarl or lunge. They were waiting. Lu Chen cursed. They've evolved! Su Yao tightened her grip on her gun. How can they act in such an organized manner? Someone is controlling them, Ling Wu muttered. The group fell silent. They knew exactly who was behind this. Yan Ye. Ling Wu stepped forward, locking eyes with the soulless creatures. And then, in an instant, they all turned their heads toward him, as if waiting for his command. A cold shiver ran down Ling Wu's spine. He had no more doubts. He was not just an ordinary human. He was becoming one of them. The question was no longer whether they could uncover the truth, but whether the truth would even matter if he couldn't fight against himself. Chapter 8. Emotions in Turmoil. The air inside the base had never felt heavier ever since the group returned from the laboratory. Su Yao could no longer hide her frustration toward Zhao Qingyi. She stared at the woman with long black hair and enigmatic silver-gray eyes, her voice laced with sarcasm. You really showed up at the perfect time. Qingyi didn't react. She continued examining the virus sample she had collected, her slender fingers gliding over the scanner screen as a faint blue light cast shadows across her expressionless face. If you have a problem with me, say it outright. Her voice was calm but sharp. The problem isn't just you. Su Yao clenched her fists. It's everything you brought with you. The chaos, the suspicion, and the thoughts you've put into Ling Wu's head. Ling Wu stood nearby, feeling his chest tighten. This was the last thing he wanted. But it was inevitable. Both of you, stop arguing. He finally spoke, trying to diffuse the tension, but Su Yao turned to him, her eyes filled with hurt. Don't you see, Ling Wu? Ever since she came back, you haven't been yourself. Her words cut through the air like a blade. Qingyi remained silent, but Ling Wu knew she was holding back her emotions. This argument would only drive the team further apart. Outside, the sky darkened, as if a storm was about to break. Ling Wu stepped outside, taking a deep breath in the cold night air. The dry wind swept through the ruins, carrying the scent of destruction. He couldn't deny it. Qingyi's return had shaken him. But what unsettled him more was himself. You are no longer human. Yan Ye's voice echoed in his mind. Ling Wu looked down at his hands. The scars of battle were still there, yet something inside him felt different. You can't sleep? A familiar voice spoke from behind him. Qingyi had approached, standing beside him, her silver-gray eyes gazing into the distance. Ling Wu exhaled. I'm not sure if I belong here anymore. Qingyi tilted her head slightly, a trace of sadness flickering in her eyes. You are still you, Ling Wu. Don't let what's inside you take control. But what if I can't stop it? She fell silent for a moment before speaking softly. If you lose control, I will be the one to stop you. Ling Wu tensed. There was no hesitation in her words, but it wasn't a threat. It sounded more like a promise. The wind howled around them. For a brief moment, he felt an invisible thread connecting them, something neither of them could explain. The next morning, as the group checked their weapons, Han Bai approached Ling Wu. Do you realize it? His voice was low and deliberate. Ling Wu frowned. Realize what? Han Bai crossed his arms, his gaze sharp. You're changing. I don't know if it's good or bad, but one thing is clear. He paused, staring directly into Ling Wu's eyes. If you don't control yourself, you could become a monster. Ling Wu clenched his fists. You think I don't know that? Then what are you going to do? Ling Wu didn't answer. Han Bai sighed, his tone steady but firm. If one day you cross the line, I will be the one to end you. Ling Wu wasn't surprised. He had expected this, but the terrifying part was that he wasn't sure if that day would ever come. As the team entered the laboratory, None of them realized that someone was watching them from the shadows. Liang Cheng, newly recruited member, slipped a hand into his pocket, activating a small device. A silent signal transmitted into the air. Far away, Yan Ye smirked. Let the game begin. No one knew there was a traitor among them. No one knew they were walking into a trap. And when the laboratory doors slid open, the nightmare truly began. A low growl echoed in the darkness. Qing Yi was the first to sense something wrong. She took a step back, eyes widening. We have a problem. The next second, a shadow lunged from the corner. It wasn't a normal zombie. Fast. Strong. Different. Its fangs gleamed as it bared its sharp teeth. Claws slicing straight toward Han Bai. He reacted quickly, dodging and drawing his knife, but the creature twisted mid-air, its speed too fast for him to counter. Su Yao screamed, "Get back!" Gunfire erupted, deafening in the enclosed space. But the terrifying thing was, the bullets didn't slow the creature down. Ning Wu charged forward, swinging his blade at its neck. But the moment his weapon made contact with its flesh, a pulse of energy exploded outward, sending him flying backward. Shit! He gritted his teeth, struggling to his feet. The mutant zombie snarled, its eyes glowing. It wasn't just an undead creature, it was a predator. And there was more than one. From the shadows, more red eyes flickered to life. A storm of death was about to engulf the laboratory. Ling Wu tightened his grip on his weapon, his breathing steadying. Get ready for a fight. Another battle for survival had begun. The sound of gunfire and snarls filled the laboratory. Ling Wu's team fought desperately, wave after wave of mutants attacking with impossible speed. But in the midst of battle, Qing Yi suddenly shouted, "I found something!" Everyone turned. She stood before an old monitor, its dim screen displaying a single message. Specimen 001, Yan Yi. Specimen 002, Ling Wu. No one spoke. But they all understood. The truth was far more terrifying than they had imagined. Chapter 9. Return to the abandoned laboratory. The old monitor flickered, its dim blue light reflecting on Zhao Qingyi's tense face. The words on the screen hit the group like a thunderclap. Specimen 001, Yan Ye. Specimen 002, Ling Wu. Time seemed to freeze. Lu Chen stood motionless, his fingers tightening around his gun. Su Yao furrowed her brows, unease creeping into her chest. Ling Wu was paralyzed, his gaze locked onto the screen. A chill ran down his spine. What does this mean? Han Bai's hoarse voice broke the silence. Zhao Qingyi's fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard, her sharp eyes scanning the data. The virus wasn't an accident, she murmured, her voice trembling slightly. It was part of a biological control experiment designed to create super soldiers. She flipped to the next page. A project diagram appeared on the screen, a human figure with dark veins coursing through its body, burning eyes, and inhuman strength. Specimen 001, she paused, her voice dropping. Yan Ye, he was the first test subject. The group held their breath. And Specimen 002? Ling Wu clenched his fists. Zhao Qingyi turned to him, her silver-gray eyes filled with unease. That's you! The air in the room grew stifling. Ling Wu's breathing became heavy, his heart pounding, as if it were reacting to the revelation itself. This can't be true. Su Yao shook her head, her voice trembling. Ling Wu took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm of thoughts raging in his mind. If I'm Specimen 002, does that mean I'm the same as Yan Yi? Zhao Qingyi met his gaze. You're not like him, but if you let your instincts take over, you might become him. Her words struck him like a dagger to the chest. Han Bai crossed his arms, deep in thought. If Yan Ye was the product of this experiment, then how did he escape? Zhao Qingyi continued searching the database. After a long silence, she read the next line aloud. Specimen 001, control failed. Specimen 002, currently in completion phase. The group fell silent. Failed? Lu Chen frowned. Zhao Qingyi nodded. Yan Ye wasn't always a ruler. He was a mistake. But because of that, he found a way to evolve on his own. Her eyes scanned further down the screen. This project had one goal: to create a perfect being. And it seems. She turned to Ling Wu, her expression unreadable. You are the final key. Zhao Qingyi kept searching. But this time, she wasn't looking for information on Ling Wu, she was searching for herself. If this virus can turn humans into creatures like Yan Ye, why am I immune? Her fingers flew over the keyboard until she found something. She froze. A name appeared on the screen: Special Immune System Experiment. Her heartbeat quickened. She clicked on the file. Subject: Zhao Qingyi. Experiment code: M003. Her eyes widened. No way. Su Yao stepped closer. What did you find? Zhao Qingyi turned to them, her face pale. I wasn't immune by chance. Han Bai raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Zhao Qingyi inhaled sharply, her voice barely steady. My body was altered before the outbreak even began. The room fell into heavy silence. A blaring alarm shattered the stillness. The group jolted, immediately drawing their weapons. What the hell is happening? Lu Chen shouted. Han Bai quickly scanned the screen. A signal was being transmitted outside. Someone sent out our coordinates! At that moment, the metal door behind them creaked open. Liang Cheng, a member of their group, stood there, a transmitter clutched in his hand. I'm sorry, he said, a twisted smile on his lips. I had no other choice. Sun Yao raised her gun, but it was too late. Outside, guttural roars echoed through the ruins. The horde was coming. Run! Lu Chen fired at Liang Cheng, but he had already disappeared into the shadows. Outside, hundreds of mutated zombies stormed toward them. Ling Wu surged forward, slashing his blade through a lunging creature. Black blood splattered, but the monster didn't fall immediately. They're tougher than before! Han Bai gritted his teeth, hacking relentlessly, but the creatures barely flinched. Su Yao pulled out a grenade and hurled it into the swarm. Fire in the hole! A deafening explosion ripped through the hallway. Smoke and dust clouded their vision. This way! Hurry! Zhao Qingyi shouted, leading them down a hidden tunnel beneath the lab. The zombies kept coming. Ling Wu felt something inside him shifting. A sharp, unbearable pain surged through his head. He stumbled, barely able to keep moving. We're almost at the exit. A faint light glowed ahead. But just as they neared the exit, a deep, menacing voice rumbled through the air. Did you really think you could escape your fate? Everyone froze. Ahead, a towering figure emerged. Glowing red eyes. A sinister smile. Yan Ye's message. The real battle has only just begun. Ling Wu tightened his grip on his weapon, his gaze sharp and unwavering. There was no turning back, no time for hesitation. He had to decide, to remain human, or to become a monster. Welcome to Fantasy Realms. Enjoy the story, and thank you for your support. Chapter 10. Zhao Qingyi's Secret. The final exit opened, and the group rushed out of the tunnel. The cold air outside lashed against their faces like a sharp gust of wind, jolting their exhausted bodies awake. Su Yao glanced around, panting. Did we lose them? Han Bai shook his head, his sharp eyes still scanning the darkness behind them, where shadowy figures continued to move. Not for long. They'll find us again soon. The group hurried toward an abandoned building. Lu Chen checked the surroundings before signaling that it was safe. Just as they managed to catch their breath, Zhao Qingyi suddenly spoke. I have something to say. She set her backpack down, pulled out a handheld device, and opened a downloaded file from the laboratory. The screen's glow illuminated the tense look on her face. Before all of this started, I was part of the research project on this virus. The air around them froze. Ling Wu frowned, an uneasy feeling creeping into his mind. What do you mean? Zhao Qingyi took a deep breath, her silver-gray eyes locking onto his. I'm not naturally immune. My body was altered before the outbreak. Su Yao clenched her fists, but this time, she didn't lash out immediately. Instead, she silently observed. Lu Chen crossed his arms, his voice steady but heavy. Can you explain that in more detail? Zhao Qingyi tapped the screen, bringing up files on the experiment. Enmetis. M003A research project, aimed at creating immunity through genetic modification. I am one of the only surviving test subjects. Ling Wu stared at her, a strange sense of familiarity stirring inside him. They had always seen Zhao Qingyi as a mystery, but no one had expected the answer to lie within her very existence. No one spoke for a few seconds. The only sound was the wind howling through the ruins. Finally, Ling Wu broke the silence, his voice low but laced with danger. If you were part of this experiment, then what about me? Am I one of them too? Zhao Qingyi pursed her lips, scrolling through the files, but there was no clear answer. I'm not sure. But this project didn't just create Yan Ye. There was also specimen 002, and you, Ling Wu, might be the missing piece. His eyes flashed with a sharp glint. So am I even human? No one could answer that question. But one thing was becoming disturbingly clear. He and Yan Ye were not just enemies. They could be two sides of the same forgotten experiment. Tension lingered in the air. Su Yao looked at Zhao Qingyi, and for the first time, the hostility between them wasn't as sharp as before. So, you're just another victim of the ones who created this nightmare. Her voice lacked the usual edge, instead carrying a hint of sympathy she hadn't even realized. Zhao Qingyi nodded, her silver-gray eyes dark with emotion. I can't run from my past, but at the very least I can help us find a way to fight Yan Ye. A brief silence followed, not the strained, distrustful kind, but one of understanding. Once the tension had settled, Lu Chen made a decision. We have two choices. We either keep running, or return to the base and use what we know to take down Yan Ye. Han Bai folded his arms, his gaze firm. If we go back, it's a huge gamble. We don't know if they've surrounded the base already. Ling Wu closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again, his stare unwavering. We can't keep running. If we have information that can help create a weapon against Yan Ye, this is our only chance. No one argued. It was time to strike back. Just as they prepared to leave, a strange noise echoed from a distance. A shadow flickered through the darkness. Han Bai drew his knife. Ling Wu raised his gun. But as the light revealed their visitor, they realized it wasn't an ordinary zombie. It was humanoid, with glowing red eyes, but it didn't attack. Instead, it opened its mouth and spoke in a deep, unsettling voice, void of madness. Yan Ye sends a message. The group stood frozen. He says, the real battle is only beginning. You cannot escape your fate. Then, the creature turned and vanished into the night. The group exchanged looks. No one said a word, but they all understood one thing. This nightmare wasn't over. The air grew heavier as they walked down the desolate road leading back to the base. No one knew what awaited them. But one thing was certain. Yan Ye knew they were coming, and this time, he wouldn't just send a warning. He would act. Chapter 11. The base under attack. Tension thickened as Ling Wu's group approached the base. Suddenly, a distress signal crackled through the radio. Lu Chen's voice came through, hoarse and strained against the chaos in the background. The base is under siege. We can't hold out much longer. If you hear this, return immediately. We need help. Then, the transmission abruptly cut off. No one spoke for several seconds, but they all understood. The situation was dire. Lu Chen was not one to ask for help easily. If he was calling for reinforcements, it meant the base was on the brink of collapse. Han Bai scanned their surroundings, gripping his weapon tightly. We can't go through the main entrance. It's either locked down or an ambush. Qingyi shook her head, concern in her expression. If we split up, we'll be weaker and easier to pick off. Ling Wu's voice was firm. We don't have time to argue. I'll lead a small team through the underground tunnel. Anyone unwilling to take the risk can stay outside to set up an ambush. His suggestion didn't surprise anyone. They knew this wasn't the time for debate. After a brief silence, Han Bai nodded. I'm going with you. Su Yao tightened her grip on her gun. Me too. The group quickly split into two. One team led by Ling Wu would infiltrate through the tunnel, while the other would hold off the zombies outside. As Ling Wu's team approached the perimeter wall, they immediately noticed something was wrong. A section of the wall had been destroyed, but instead of pouring into the base, The zombies stood scattered in an eerie formation. "What the hell is this?" Su Yao whispered. The undead weren't charging mindlessly. They stood still, as if waiting for a command. A chill ran down Ling Wu's spine. This wasn't a random attack. It was a strategy, and there was only one person who could orchestrate something like this. "They're waiting for orders." Ling Wu narrowed his eyes. His words sent a shiver through the team. They all knew what that meant. Yan Yi was watching. He had control over this entire horde, able to command them with a mere thought. "We need to get inside now," Ling Wu signaled, and the group quickly moved toward the underground entrance. They moved cautiously through the dark tunnels, the damp air thick with the stench of decay. Every step felt heavier as the weight of impending doom pressed down on them. Then, just as they reached a corner, the zombies attacked. "Hold the line!" Han Bai roared, slashing through one of the creatures. Su Yao fired her gun, each shot precise, but there were too many. They couldn't hold them back forever. Ling Wu felt something stir within him, a strange, powerful force. Without thinking, he did something he had never attempted before. He reached out with his mind. "Stop!" An invisible wave pulsed outward. For a brief moment, every zombie froze in place. The entire group stood in stunned silence. Ling Wu had just controlled them. But then, pain exploded in his skull. A cold voice slithered into his mind. "You think you can control them? You are not strong enough yet." His body convulsed, blood trickling from his nose. The zombies twitched. Then, they went berserk. "They're reacting against him!" Qing Yi shouted. Ling Wu staggered, barely keeping himself upright. Yan Yi had sensed what he was doing, and had wrested back control. "Fall back!" Han Bai yanked Ling Wu backward as the group retreated through a reinforced steel door, sealing it just as the horde lunged at them again. The hallway led them to the central command room, once the heart of the base. As they burst inside, they found Lu Chen and a small group of survivors barricaded behind debris. Lu Chen lifted his head, his exhaustion evident, but his eyes still sharp. "You got here just in time." He was injured. A deep gash stretched across his shoulder. But what worried them more was the unnatural pallor of his skin. Sun Yao rushed forward to examine his wound. As she unwrapped the makeshift bandages, she froze. Beneath the blood-stained fabric, Lu Chen's skin had begun to change. Darkened veins spread from the wound, a telltale sign of infection. A heavy silence filled the room. No one dared to say it, but they all knew what it meant. Outside, the growls of the undead grew louder. They weren't waiting anymore. They had received their orders. Slowly, Lu Chen stood, his gaze sweeping across the faces of his comrades, people he had fought alongside for years. He knew his time was running out. A decision formed in his mind, a decision no one could change. If the base couldn't be saved, then at the very least, he would make sure it didn't fall into Yan Ye's hands. Ling Wu clenched his fists, his heart heavy. Too many had been lost already. But this time, he refused to lose anyone else. Was there a way to save Lu Chen? Or was sacrifice the only option? Outside, the guttural roars of the monstrous horde echoed like a death knell. The real battle had just begun. Chapter 12. Sacrifice. The atmosphere in the command room was suffocating. Su Yao knelt beside Lu Chen, her hands trembling as she peeled back the bandage on his shoulder. The wound had turned to sickly black, purple veins spreading ominously beneath his skin. But the most terrifying thing was that his eyes remained clear, showing no signs of the mindless rage that usually accompanied infection. "This isn't possible," Su Yao whispered, horror filling her gaze. "You're still conscious?" Lu Chen chuckled softly, his voice low but unwavering. "Maybe the virus isn't killing me immediately." He looked down at his arm, where the symptoms of transformation were becoming more pronounced. "But I don't think I have much time left." Ling Wu clenched his fists, desperately searching for a solution. "There might still be a way to save you. If we can get back to the lab." Lu Chen raised a hand, stopping him. "No, Ling Wu, there's no time. Look outside." Beyond the walls, the roars of the undead grew louder. Yan Yag's army was ready to storm in. But they weren't attacking yet. They were waiting. For an order. A signal. For an order. And then the base would be annihilated. Lu Chen turned to the remaining survivors. Listen to me. We've fought long enough, and now you need to go on without me. Su Yao shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. No, there has to be another way. Lu Chen placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his gaze softer than ever. Su Yao, you've saved so many lives, but this time, you can't save me. He turned to Han Bai. You're the most capable among us. Lead them to safety. Han Bai met his gaze, his usually cold eyes reflecting a pain he tried to hide. Lu Chen pulled out his radio and issued a command to the remaining soldiers in the base. Activate the self-destruction protocol. Everyone, evacuate immediately. But Captain, that's an order. The others clenched their teeth. They knew there was no convincing him. A soldier silently activated the countdown on the security system. On the screen, the numbers began ticking down. 10, 10.00, 9.59, 9.58. Ling Wu stared at the numbers, an unbearable sense of helplessness crushing him. He couldn't let this happen. Each second felt like an eternity. The alarm blared, and at that moment, the zombies suddenly went berserk. Yan Ye had given the order. The creatures charged in from all directions. Go! Lu Chen shouted, throwing one last glance at Ling Wu. We'll meet again if you survive. Ling Wu had no choice. He turned away, dragging Su Yao and Zhao Qingyi with him. Han Bai and the others provided cover fire, carving a path through the horde. Flames erupted along the hallways as small explosions began tearing through the base. The walls trembled, debris crashing down. Behind them, Lu Chen stood still among his enemies. One hand gripped his gun. The other clutched the detonator. A zombie lunged. He shot it through the skull. Another attacked, but he did not falter. 5.00, 4.59. Han Bai was the last to leave through the doors. Before sealing them shut, he caught one final glimpse of Lu Chen. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a man ready to sacrifice everything for his comrades. 3.00, 2.59. In the distance, Yan Ye's furious roar echoed, but it was too late. 1.000.59. A deafening explosion tore through the base. Flames erupted, consuming everything. The team fled as the inferno raged behind them, thick smoke swallowing the sky. No one spoke. They all knew they had lost someone irreplaceable. Han Bai stood frozen, gripping his weapon so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Su Yao broke into sobs, but no one blamed her. Ling Wu stared into the distance, but his mind was still trapped in Lu Chen's final words. We'll meet again if you survive. But could they truly survive this war? As they stopped to rest in the ruins, Zhao Qingyi suddenly activated a personal communicator. A recorded transmission had been sent just before the explosion. Lu Chen's voice came through, rough but resolute. Ling Wu, you can't keep running. To defeat Yan Ye, you must understand yourself first. Ling Wu clenched his fists. He knew that what awaited them was far worse than anything they had faced before. But this time, he wouldn't back down. The fire still burned in the distance. But in Ling Wu's eyes, another fire had just ignited. In the silent night, as the weight of loss still hung heavy over them, a shadow quietly slipped away from the group. A small device flickered to life, transmitting a silent signal. Far away, Yan Ye smiled. Did you really think you could escape me? He knew everything, and this time, he wouldn't just wait. Chapter 13. Betrayal. Ling Wu's group moved silently through the ruined streets. No one spoke, but the air between them was heavier than ever. They had lost their base, lost Lu Chen, and now, they were forced to keep running without a clear destination. But what worried them most wasn't the zombies lurking outside, it was the terrifying truth they had just uncovered. Someone had sent their coordinates to Yan Ye. As Zhao Qingyi scanned the communication devices, she discovered a strange signal had been transmitted just before the base exploded. It wasn't from Yan Ye. It had come from one of their own internal devices. A traitor was among them. Ling Wu clenched his fists, his gaze turning ice cold. We've been sold out. The group stopped in their tracks, exchanging wary glances. Who could have betrayed them at a time like this? It didn't take long for suspicion to fall on Zhao Qingyi. You're the only one who ever worked in the military's laboratory, someone accused. Who's to say you don't still have ties to them? Zhao Qingyi remained still, her sharp gaze unwavering, but her voice remained calm. If I were really the traitor, why would I be running with you?
Su Yao spoke up, her voice hesitant. I don't think Zhao Qingyi would do this, but we can't rule it out. Han Bai tapped his fingers against his gun, scanning the group. We don't have any solid proof against her. Let me investigate this. Zhao Qingyi said nothing, even though she knew she was innocent. She could feel the distance growing between her and the others. In the darkness, she had never felt more alone. Han Bai began tracing the signal. He wasn't the type to trust easily, but he also wasn't someone who made hasty conclusions. He examined the devices, cross-checked the transmission logs, and finally, he found the most suspicious lead. Kahuna of Lu Chen's former soldiers, Zhang Feng. Once a loyal fighter, Zhang Feng had changed ever since the base fell. He often disappeared at night, and his eyes always darted away whenever Yan Ye was mentioned. Han Bai approached him and drove a knife into the ground right by his foot. Talk! Who did you send the signal to? Zhang Feng flinched but quickly tried to compose himself. What are you talking about? Han Bai didn't waste words. He threw Zhang Feng's communication device onto the ground. The signal came from this. Don't tell me you had no idea. The atmosphere turned suffocatingly tense. The others drew their weapons, their eyes locking onto Zhang Feng. Realizing he could no longer deny it, Zhang Feng gritted his teeth, his expression darkening. You don't understand. Yan Ye is going to win. We are just weak, fragile humans. We can't defeat him. If I hadn't done this, we would have died a long time ago. You sold out your own comrades just to save yourself? Han Bai let out a cold laugh, his eyes gleaming with killing intent. Zhang Feng suddenly drew a knife, attempting to flee, but before he could take another step, a single gunshot rang out. A bullet pierced straight through his skull. Han Bai lowered his gun, not even bothering to glance at the fallen traitor. There's only one fate for a betrayer. The group stared at Zhang Feng's lifeless body. No one spoke, but his final words echoed in their minds. Yan Ye already knew their plan. As night fell, Ling Wu stood alone atop a pile of rubble, staring at the darkened horizon. A sense of unease gnawed at him. Even though Zhang Feng was dead, something didn't feel right. Would Yan Ye really rely on someone like Zhang Feng for such crucial information? Zhao Qingyi approached and stood beside him. You don't believe he was the only traitor, do you? Ling Wu clenched his fists. No, Yan Ye isn't that simple. If he already knows our plan, then there's still another traitor among us. His words lingered in the night, and somewhere in the shadows, unseen eyes were watching them. The wind picked up, carrying an icy chill, a sound that reeked of death. Ahead, the ruins of a devastated city loomed in the distance. Zhao Qingyi studied the map, her voice steady but grave. This was once the location of a secret laboratory. If we want to learn more about the virus, this is the only place to find answers. But they didn't know. At the very moment they stepped foot into the ruins, a pair of glowing red eyes were already watching them from above. Yan Ye was waiting. Chapter 14. Confronting Yan Ye. The sky was a dull gray, heavy clouds blotting out the sun, casting an eerie, tomb-like silence over the world. Ling Wu's group stood at the edge of an abandoned highway, surrounded by rusting vehicles and debris. Ahead of them lay the dead city, the former epicenter of virus research before the catastrophe struck. No one knew what awaited them inside, but they all felt the crushing weight of an invisible force pressing down on their shoulders. Qingyi studied the map on her handheld device, her expression unreadable. The lab is deep beneath the city center. If there's any answer about Yan Ye, it will be there. Ling Wu nodded, his sharp gaze scanning the ruins ahead. We don't have time to waste. Move out. The team advanced cautiously, every step measured. There was no sign of life, but there were no zombies either. Only an unsettling, suffocating silence. Han Bai gritted his teeth, unease creeping into his mind. We're walking into a trap. The moment Han Bai spoke, a voice echoed through the ruins. So, you've finally arrived. A shadow emerged from the heights of a crumbling skyscraper. Yan Ye stood there, watching them with piercing red eyes and a sinister smile. He no longer resembled the mindless undead. In fact, he looked more human than ever before. His skin was smooth, his long black hair flowing like silk, his figure clad in an elegant black robe. But the most terrifying thing was his eyes. Those were not the eyes of a dead man. They were the eyes of a being who had ascended beyond mortality. Ling Wu instinctively raised his weapon.
But Yan Ye simply lifted a hand.
A wave of unseen energy locked Lingwu in place, holding him frozen where he stood. "Don't be so hasty, Abai. I didn't come here to kill you, not yet."
Yan Ye descended slowly from the wreckage, walking toward them with deliberate, unhurried steps. "I've been watching you, Lingwu. You are not like the rest of them." He glanced dismissively at the others. "You are stronger, faster. I can feel the change within you. You are no longer purely human." He raised a hand, and instantly, an image burned itself into Lingwu's mind. A vision of a world without humans. A world ruled by immortal beings.
"This world is already rotten.
Humanity has destroyed itself. Join me, and I will grant you absolute power. You will never fear again. You will never lose anyone again." In the vision, Lingwu saw himself standing atop the ruins of the old world, ruling over an empire of the undying.
For a fleeting moment, the temptation gripped him.
The loss, the pain, the deaths he had failed to prevent, if he accepted, all of it would end.
But then, an image of Lu Chen flashed in his mind. His final words echoed like a ghost. "You can't keep running. To defeat Yan Ye, you must first understand yourself."
Lingwu inhaled deeply, steadying himself. "You really think I'd betray my comrades?" Yan Ye didn't look surprised. He merely shook his head, his voice calm yet commanding. "I expected this. But in time you will see. You cannot fight fate." Lingwu raised his weapon, eyes burning with resolve.
"I decide my own fate," Yan Ye chuckled.
"Then prove it." The moment those words left his lips, a massive wave of dark energy erupted from Yan Ye's body, spreading across the city like a shockwave. The ground trembled. From every corner of the ruins, thousands of red-eyed zombies emerged, standing in eerie synchronization. Lingwu wasted no time. He focused, tapping into the energy within him. A silver-blue aura flared around him. And just like that, another group of zombies turned to his command. Two opposing forces, Yan Ye's horde, charged forward, colliding against Lingwu's controlled undead in a brutal, chaotic clash. The ruined city became a battleground. Lingwu lunged at Yan Ye, his blade slicing through the air. But the moment it made contact, a violent shockwave blasted him backward. Yan Ye hadn't even flinched. Instead, he smirked. "You are still too weak." Han Bai and Su Yao fought fiercely outside, trying to hold off the never-ending swarm of undead.
"We can't hold them much longer?"
Han Bai shouted. From a distance, Qing Yi watched intently, noticing something. Despite Yan Ye's overwhelming power, there was a moment, just a flicker, where his energy wavered when he used his abilities.
"He's not invincible," she whispered to herself.
Lingwu gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain. If he couldn't defeat Yan Ye through sheer strength, he would have to find another way. The battle raged on, turning the dead city into a war zone of chaos and destruction. But no matter how hard they fought, Lingwu couldn't gain the upper hand.
Realizing the situation was turning against them, Han Bai shouted, "We have to retreat!" Lingwu clenched his fists. He didn't want to run. If they stayed, they would all die here. "Go!" he roared, summoning every last ounce of energy to unleash a powerful shockwave, pushing Yan Ye back momentarily. The team made their escape, dashing through the ruins. As they disappeared into the distance, Yan Ye stood still, watching them go. He made no move to chase them. Instead, he smirked. "Run while you can, but you cannot escape forever." Lingwu tightened his grip on his weapon. This wasn't over. If they were going to win, they needed a new plan. And next time, they wouldn't run.
Chapter 15. The Battle in the City of the Dead. Smoke and dust blanketed the ruined city, once a beacon of civilization, but now reduced to nothing more than a graveyard of shattered remains. The roars of thousands of zombies echoed through the desolate night, tearing apart the eerie silence. The battle between Lingwu and Yan Ye was no longer a mere duel. Scat had escalated into a full-scale war between two opposing forces. Lingwu stood amidst his horde of undead, his eyes glowing in the darkness, his power radiating around him. The zombies under his command were no longer mindless husks. They moved with strategy, launching wave after wave to counter Yan Ye's forces. On the other side, Yan Ye remained unfazed.
He stood tall atop a crumbling building, his crimson eyes glowing menacingly. With a mere flick of his hand, hundreds of zombies surged forward. "This is true power, Lingwu!" Yan Ye's voice carried like a curse through the battlefield. Do you really think you can stand against me? Lingwu didn't respond. He merely tightened his grip around his sword. There was no turning back. He had to fight until the end. Amidst the chaotic battle, Zhao Qingyi stood atop a high-rise, carefully observing Yan Ye's every move. She took note of his actions, his attacks, his bursts of energy, and then she noticed something strange. Whenever Yan Ye unleashed a powerful surge of energy, a faint light flickered on his chest. She murmured to herself, "He's still dependent on some sort of power source. If they could exploit this weakness, they might have a chance to turn the tide." Lingwu, he has a weak point. There's something on his chest. It could be the core of his power. Zhao Qingyi shouted through the radio. Lingwu glanced at Yan Ye, his gaze sharpening. Understood. Han Bai refused to stand idle as the battle escalated into pure chaos. He commanded a small unit to strike from multiple directions, attempting to divert Yan Ye's zombie army. From a secure vantage point, Su Yao prepared her sniper rifle. Zhao Qingyi, if you're right, we need to find a way to distract him, Su Yao said, tightening her grip on the gun. I'll create an opening. When I signal, shoot straight at his chest. Zhao Qingyi responded, a glimmer of determination in her eyes. Lingwu felt his body burning with energy. He could no longer afford to hold back. If he didn't unleash everything now, they would never have another chance to defeat Yan Ye. He closed his eyes, focusing his will. A surge of silver-blue energy erupted around him, its intensity halting even Yan Ye's undead for a brief moment. Lingwu raised his hand, and instantly, hundreds of his zombies charged in unison. He launched himself toward Yan Ye, slashing with all his might. But Yan Ye had been waiting. With a mere flick of his wrist, he blocked the sword effortlessly, generating a shockwave that sent Lingwu flying backward. Yan Ye sneered. You're becoming more like me, Lingwu. His voice was laced with amusement. But you're still not strong enough. Lingwu struggled to his feet, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. His entire body ached, but what frightened him more was the sensation. His power was beginning to slip beyond his control. Su Yao gritted her teeth and yelled, "Lingwu, we have to retreat!" Zhao Qingyi shouted as well, "Quote, we can't win this fight yet! If you keep going, he'll kill you!" Lingwu clenched his jaw. He didn't want to run, but he also knew they couldn't continue like this. If they pushed any further, they would all die here. Summoning all his remaining strength, he unleashed a massive shockwave of energy, momentarily forcing back Yan Ye's forces. "Retreat now!" he roared. The group quickly made their way to the city's outskirts. From a distance, Yan Ye watched them go. He didn't pursue. Instead, he smiled darkly. "Run all you like, but you can't escape forever." Lingwu's group moved through the darkness, their breaths heavy with exhaustion. They knew they had suffered a defeat, but they also knew this wasn't the end. Lingwu sat on a broken slab of concrete, his hands clenched into fists. His body still trembled from what had transpired. Something was changing within him. Something unfamiliar, something dangerous. Zhao Qingyi sat beside him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yan Ye, he's not just growing stronger, he's evolving." Lingwu closed his eyes. If Yan Ye had reached a new stage of power, did they even stand a chance anymore? Far away, a shadow moved through the ruins. A lone, intelligent zombie carried a message from Yan Ye. "You're only delaying the inevitable. There is only one path. Submit or be destroyed." Chapter 16. The Evolution of Yan Ye. Amidst the ruins of the dead city, standing tall among the ashes and scattered corpses of zombies, Yan Ye loomed like a god of darkness. His skin no longer had the sickly pallor of the other undead. Instead, it had become smooth, almost human-like, yet pulsing with a strange and eerie energy. His crimson eyes gleamed as he raised a hand, examining himself. His body had not only recovered from battle, yet had grown even stronger. The wounds Lingwu had inflicted were completely gone, and the energy within him surged with renewed intensity. Closing his eyes, he could feel the raw power coursing through his veins. This was no longer just a virus, it was a perfect form of evolution. "Just one more step," he muttered, a cruel smirk forming on his lips. "And I will surpass both humans and monsters alike." Beneath him, thousands of zombies knelt in absolute submission.
He clenched his fists, reveling in the overwhelming power flooding through his being. The last battle had only been the beginning.
After their crushing defeat in the Dead City, Ling Wu's group was forced to retreat beyond Yan Ye's sphere of influence. They stumbled upon an abandoned underground facility, once a small research outpost before the apocalypse. Though it was nowhere near as fortified as their lost base, it was at least a temporary refuge where they could recover and regroup. Inside, the group quietly tended to their wounds and checked their weapons. The tension in the air was suffocating. No one said it out loud, but they all knew they had lost. And if they didn't find a way to counter Yan Ye, their next failure would mean extinction. Han Bai sat on an old ammunition crate, his gaze dark. He's too strong. If we don't find his weakness, there won't be a second chance. Even Su Yao, usually the strongest among them, couldn't hide the worry in her voice. We can't keep running forever. There has to be a way. Zhao Qingyi stood up, determination flashing in her silver-gray eyes. We need answers, and I'm going to find them.
Locking herself inside the base's small laboratory, Zhao Qingyi analyzed the samples they had collected during the battle. She examined the data from Yan Ye's energy surges, tracking how the virus reacted within his body. After hours of relentless research, she finally uncovered a horrifying truth. Yan Ye had achieved immortality. The virus inside him no longer functioned as before. It had evolved into something entirely new, no longer just regenerating his body but constantly enhancing it. Each time he was wounded, the virus didn't just heal him, it made him stronger. Her breath came in short gasps, cold sweat forming on her brow. At this rate, he'll never be defeated. But then, a thought struck her. Nothing is perfect. If he evolved this quickly, there has to be a limit, or a weakness. She rushed out of the lab, searching for Ling Wu.
I need to examine you.
Ling Wu sat alone in the corner of the base, his eyes shut tight, breathing unsteady. The pain in his head was growing worse. His body felt different. When he opened his eyes, for a brief second, he saw his reflection in a nearby glass panel. His irises gleamed with a fleeting red glow, just like Yan Ye's. His hands trembled. He clenched them into fists, trying to steady himself. No. He couldn't let this continue. If he lost control, what would he become? Zhao Qingyi burst into the room without warning, her sharp gaze locking onto him. You're changing! He didn't respond. But the look in his eyes told her everything. She bit her lip, her voice tense with urgency. Your body is adapting to the virus. But unlike Yan Ye, it's not trying to control you. It's trying to synchronize with you. If you push yourself too far, you might turn into something else entirely. Ling Wu's voice was low. Something else? She nodded grimly. You could become stronger than Yan Ye, or you might lose yourself completely. The weight of her words sank between them. They both understood the risk. If Ling Wu continued to fight as he was now, he might not remain human for much longer. As night fell, the group gathered to discuss their next move. But before they could begin, an eerie noise echoed from outside. Han Bai raised his gun, signaling everyone to stay alert. They moved cautiously toward the entrance, where a shadowed figure stood beneath the moonlight. A zombie, not like the others. It stood upright, clad in tattered armor. Its glowing red eyes did not burn with blind hunger. It simply stood there, watching them in silence. Then, a deep, steady voice, devoid of madness.
Yan Ye sends a message. No one moved. You are only delaying the inevitable. There is only one path. Submit, or be annihilated. Its words hung in the cold night air, sending a chill down their spines. But rather than fear, they only fueled Ling Wu's resolve. He stepped forward, his voice as cold as steel. Tell Yan Ye I will be the one to destroy him. The zombie did not respond. It simply turned and disappeared into the darkness. Han Bai crossed his arms, watching it go. So, he knows we're still alive. Su Yao nodded. And he wants us to surrender. Ling Wu turned to Zhao Qingyi. How much time do we have before he fully evolves? She hesitated, her expression grim. Not much. If we're going to stop him, we have to act now. Ling Wu clenched his fists. This time, they wouldn't run. This time, they would strike back.
Chapter 17. Love and Sacrifice.
After barely escaping the brutal battle with Yan Ye, Ling Wu's group found temporary refuge in the ruins on the outskirts of the city. The crumbling buildings provided a perfect cover, keeping them hidden from wandering enemies. However, isolation weighed heavily on their spirits. As the others worked on repairing equipment and tending to their wounds, Ling Wu gradually realized the growing distance between him and Su Yao. She was still by his side, carefully dressing his wounds after the battle. But there was an unspoken sadness in her eyes. "What are you afraid of, Ling Wu?" Su Yao suddenly asked, as they sat together by a small fire. Ling Wu remained silent. He didn't want to admit it, but there was a growing uncertainty within him. His body no longer felt entirely human. Every day, he could sense the dark energy flowing through his veins. He could control the undead, even feel them as if they were a part of him. Su Yao tightened her grip slightly, whispering, "Do you think you'll become a monster like Yan Ye?" Ling Wu didn't answer. He simply stared into the flames, lost in thought. While the group searched for a way to fight Yan Ye, Han Bai and Qing Yi dug through old research files from the laboratory, hoping to uncover a weakness. They came across a classified document detailing something called a perfect specimen, being capable of eradicating the virus from an infected host entirely. If this theory is correct, the blood of a perfect specimen could be the key to ending this nightmare, Qing Yi said, her sharp gaze shifting toward Ling Wu. Ling Wu frowned. "What are you implying?" Qing Yi's voice was calm but firm. "Do you think you're part of this experiment?" A heavy silence fell over the group. If Ling Wu's blood truly held the cure, then he might be the key to ending the war. But before they could discuss further, something unexpected happened. During a routine scouting mission, Su Yao and a few other members spotted a small group of undead roaming near their temporary base. They moved cautiously, but before they could retreat, a mutated zombie attacked with terrifying speed. A scream tore through the silence. Ling Wu rushed to the scene, only to see Su Yao collapse, blood pooling beneath her. A deep gash had torn through her abdomen, soaking her clothes in red. She wasn't infected, but she was losing too much blood. "Stay with me, Su Yao." Ling Wu held her close, his voice shaking. She looked up at him, her dark brown eyes soft, despite the pain. "Ling Wu, if this is the end, I don't want to have regrets." At that moment, Ling Wu knew he could save her. Inside him was a power, Yan Ye's power. If he transferred some of that energy into Su Yao, she could recover. But there was a cost. If he did this, he might lose his humanity forever. He might become something else, something like Yan Ye. Qing Yi stepped forward, her voice urgent. "Don't do it, Ling Wu." "And that power. If you use that power, you may never come back." Han Bai also intervened. "She still has a chance if we find the perfect specimen. Don't take this risk." But Su Yao's breathing was growing weaker. Her hands trembled in his. Ling Wu could lose her. After a long silence, he made his decision. He wouldn't use his power. Instead, he stayed beside her, holding her hand through the night, praying she would survive. As the faint light of dawn filtered through the ruins, Su Yao was still weak, but alive. She slowly opened her eyes and saw Ling Wu beside her, still holding onto her hand. "You stayed," Ling Wu nodded, a rare gentleness in his usually dark eyes. Su Yao took a deep breath before speaking softly. "I don't want you to torture yourself over something you can't control. No matter what happens, the Ling Wu I know is still human." She reached up, resting her hand over his heart, feeling the steady rhythm of his pulse. "And if we survive this, I want to stay by your side until the very end." Ling Wu's heart skipped a beat. In this chaotic, broken world, this was the first time in a long while that he felt warmth. But their fight wasn't over yet. As Su Yao slowly recovered, the group continued preparing for the battles ahead. But at that very moment, a dark figure emerged at the edge of their refuge. It wasn't a normal zombie. A deep, chilling voice echoed through the night. "Ling Wu, it's time for you to choose." Yan Yi had come. And this time, he wasn't here to negotiate. Chapter 18. The Final Battle. The sky was bleak, the cold wind howling across the desolate wasteland. From the horizon, an endless horde of zombies stretched far and wide, their crimson eyes flickering like dying embers amidst the smoldering ruins. Standing atop a crumbling tower, Yan Ye's tattered black cloak billowed violently in the wind,
He raised his hand, his dark eyes filled with contempt.
"It's time to end this game,"
his voice echoed, deep and commanding, carrying an undeniable sense of dominion. A monstrous chorus of roars erupted in response.
His army of the undead was ready.
No longer mindless creatures driven by primal hunger. These zombies had evolved. They moved with precision, wielding crude weapons forged from rusted metal scraps. Some were grotesquely mutated, their bodies twisted into monstrous forms capable of leaping, scaling walls, and hunting like true predators. Behind Yan Ye stood his 3 elite enforcers, the strongest of the evolved undead. Unlike the others, they retained fragments of intelligence, enough to fight like seasoned warriors.
Destroy humanity.
At his command, the Undead Legion began its march toward humanity's last stronghold.
At the resistance base, the tension was suffocating. From the watchtower, Lu Chen, Han Bai, and Tao Yao observed the approaching army with grim expressions.
"This isn't like before," Han Bai muttered.
"They're not attacking in scattered waves anymore." "They're preparing for a full-scale assault," Lu Chen confirmed.
In the courtyard,
Ling Wu gripped his sword tightly. A strange sensation welled up within him. Yan Yi had called to him countless times, but this time, he wasn't seeking to persuade. He was here to end everything. "We can't wait for them to strike first," bid. "We need to act now," Ling Wu declared. A strategy was quickly devised. Zhao Qingyi and Han Bai would infiltrate Yan Ye's command center, attempting to disrupt the horde from within. Ling Wu would confront Yan Ye directly. He was the only one with a chance to stop him. Lu Chen and the remaining warriors would hold the base, forming an unyielding defense. This was their last battle. There would be no second chances.
Though still weak from her previous injuries, Tao Yao gritted her teeth and forced herself out of bed. Her wounds had yet to fully heal, but she couldn't stand idly by. "I won't sit here while everyone else fights." Ling Wu wanted to stop her, but he knew she wouldn't change her mind. "All right," he relented, his voice low. "But, be careful." Tao Yao nodded, donning her combat armor and gripping her rifle tightly.
She joined the front lines, ready to face the nightmare ahead.
The alarm blared. And then, all hell broke loose. The undead horde surged forward. The outer barricades collapsed within moments. Towering monstrosities leapt over the walls, their razor-sharp claws slicing through the defenders. Gunfire erupted, but it was barely enough to slow the tidal wave of flesh and death. Ling Wu slashed through an attacking zombie. Black blood sprang across the battlefield. Infiltrating the enemy's ranks, Zhao Qingyi and Han Bai began their mission. Tao Yao provided medical aid while picking off approaching zombies with precise sniper shots. They all fought with the desperate belief that this was their last chance. Amidst the chaos, a surge of dark energy rippled through the battlefield. Yan Ye emerged from the shadows. He was no longer just a monstrous entity. He had evolved. His form was more human-like, yet his glowing red eyes remained cold and devoid of emotion. "We meet again, Ling Wu," he said, his voice calm yet brimming with authority. Ling Wu tightened his grip on his sword, his gaze sharp. "This time, I'm ending you," Yan Yi chuckled. "Are you sure? You've felt it, haven't you? The truth? That you and I are no different."
For a brief moment, Ling Wu hesitated. The voices in his mind whispered again. Visions flickered before him, memories that weren't his own, fragments of something foreign yet familiar. Yan Ye lifted his hand. Immediately, a wave of massive, grotesque zombies emerged, encircling Ling Wu. These weren't ordinary undead. They were failed prototypes of Yan Ye, stronger, faster, and utterly obedient to his will. "This is where you die," Yan Ye declared coldly.
Chapter 19. The Final Secret. Flames blazed fiercely in the night. The once ruined city had now turned into a battlefield of survival between humans and evolved zombies. While warriors outside fought desperately for their lives, Zhao Qingyi remained buried in her research, inside an abandoned laboratory. Her hands moved swiftly across the remaining equipment, searching for any clue about the source of Yan Ye's power. Torn documents, old experiment logs from before the apocalypse, everything pointed to a horrifying truth. Yan Ye was not just an evolved zombie, he was the origin of the virus itself. The final notes of Project Rebirth revealed the madness of those who had tried to create an immortal being. But instead of engineering the perfect bioweapon, they had unknowingly given birth to a conscious entity. Worse, Yan Ye's very body had become an endless power source for the virus. As long as he lives, the virus will continue to spread indefinitely. A flicker of hope flashed in Zhao Qingyi's eyes. If they could destroy the energy core inside Yan Ye, he would be permanently killed, and the virus would cease to exist. But that also meant, we have to kill him at his only weak point, his central core, inside his heart.
There was no time for hesitation. She immediately contacted Lingwu's group.
I found a way. We can kill him. While Zhao Qingyi uncovered the key to victory, Han Bai had already infiltrated Yan Ye's central command post, where the entire zombie army was being controlled. It was the most dangerous mission he had ever undertaken. But there was no other choice. He had to disable Yan Ye's defense network and open the way for humanity's final attack. He moved like a shadow, weaving through the ruins, avoiding the watchful eyes of the patrolling zombies. These creatures were not mindless. They operated in formations, communicating with eerie, guttural sounds. Deep inside the crumbling tower, where Yan Ye controlled his army, Han Bai finally located the control station. This was the nerve center of the horde, a transmission beacon that coordinated the movements of the evolved zombies. If he could disable it, the army would collapse into chaos. I have one shot at this. He pulled out a jamming device and began calibrating the frequency disruption. But just as he was about to activate it, a low, sinister laugh echoed behind him. Did you really think you could deceive me, Han Bai?
Han Bai spun around, his instincts flaring. Standing before him was one of Yan Ye's 3 elite guardians. A monstrous being clad in melted steel, its body fused with ancient armor.
You're too late, human. Han Bai had only a second to react, and the fight for his life began. Meanwhile, the battle between Lingwu and Yan Ye raged on. Lingwu slashed his sword, each strike cutting through the mutated zombies that swarmed him. But something was wrong. Every time he landed a blow, a strange energy pulsed through his body. Every second that passed, Yan Ye's presence seeped into him. His body was changing. The wounds that had torn open across his flesh were healing on their own. His heartbeat slowed, almost as if it was stopping. Yan Ye watched him with an eerie fascination, his fiery red eyes flickering as though looking into a mirror. You feel it, don't you? Shut up, Lingwu snarled, forcing himself to stay in control. But deep inside, he knew Yan Ye wasn't lying. If he kept going, he might defeat him. But in doing so, he might become just like him. At that moment, Han Bai successfully activated the jamming device. A piercing frequency erupted across the battlefield. The zombies let out agonized screeches, their bodies convulsing as they lost control. The moment had come. Lu Chen, Tao Yao, and the remaining warriors seized the opportunity, launching humanity's greatest counterattack. Explosions ripped through the battlefield, wiping out swarms of mutated zombies. They're retreating, Tao Yao shouted. For the first time, hope surged in their hearts. But Yan Ye stood tall, unaffected by the disruption. He was still too powerful. Lingwu gripped his sword tightly, his breath heavy. Yan Ye looked at him, his voice deep and commanding. There is only one way to end this, Lingwu. Kill me, and accept your fate, or let humanity perish. Lingwu looked around. His friends were still fighting. They had put everything on the line for this battle, but he knew. If he killed Yan Ye the normal way, he would never truly die. The virus would live on. The only way was to destroy the core inside Yan Ye's heart, but if he did that, he might die with him. From the distance, Zhao Qingyi screamed, Lingwu, don't do it! Tao Yao turned to him, her eyes filled with anguish. Lingwu closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then he exhaled. There's no other choice. He charged toward Yan Ye, aiming straight for his heart. A blinding light erupted in the darkness, and everything collapsed. Welcome to Fantasy Realms. Enjoy the story, and thank you for your support. Chapter 20. Sacrifice for Humanity. A brilliant explosion of energy erupted as Lingwu and Yan Ye clashed, tearing through the battlefield. The ground quaked violently, sending shockwaves across the ruins. A powerful blast sent both of them flying backward. Lingwu crashed onto the shattered stone, his breath ragged. In front of him, Yan Ye remained standing, but something had changed. His body was no longer invincible. Cracks had begun to form across his skin, glowing with an ominous red light. From the edge of the battlefield, Qingyi rushed forward, gripping a vial of pale blue liquid. the result of her final analysis of the virus, though her face was pale with exhaustion, her eyes burned with revelation. Lingwu, we can't kill him the normal way. Lingwu struggled to rise, his gaze locking onto her. What? Yan Ye isn't just controlled by the virus. He is the virus. His body has become the core that sustains it. If we kill him with weapons alone, the virus will simply seek a new host. But if we destroy that core, she hesitated, taking a deep breath before speaking the cruel truth. Only your blood can eradicate it completely. A deafening silence fell over the battlefield. Su Yao, Lu Chen, and Han Bai all froze in shock. No! Su Yao screamed. If you do this, you'll die. The battlefield was still engulfed in smoke and dust. The distant roars of the undead were fading, but Yan Ye remained standing, smiling. He had heard everything. So that's the truth, Yan Ye murmured, glancing at his fractured body. You really are the final key. For the first time, his gaze toward Lingwu was not that of a predator hunting prey, but of someone accepting fate. But before Lingwu could move, Su Yao threw herself in front of him, her hands gripping his shoulders tightly. No! She shouted. I won't let you do this! There has to be another way. Lingwu looked at her. For the first time in all the brutal months they had survived, her eyes were filled with pure desperation. Su Yao, his voice was quiet, his hand gently covering hers. I can't let everyone die because of me. But I don't want to lose you, she trembled, tears rolling down her cheeks. Qingyi stood nearby, lips pressed into a tight line. She understood Su Yao's pain, but she also knew Lingwu. He never changed his mind once he had made a decision. This is the only way. Lingwu's voice was steady, his resolve unshaken. The sky loomed dark and heavy, as if mourning what was about to happen. Yan Yi chuckled softly. So, what is your choice, Lingwu? Lingwu clenched his blade, blood dripping from his hand onto the ash-covered ground. He stepped forward, each step heavier than the last. With each step, memories surged through his mind. The moment he first awakened. The battles, the comrades lost, the sanctuary they had built in the ruins of a fallen world. Su Yao, Qingyi, Lu Chen, Han Bai, all those still fighting for a future. He couldn't let them die. He couldn't let this world be swallowed by darkness. Lingwu met Yan Ye's gaze, extending his hand. I will end this. Yan Ye nodded. He did not resist. He welcomed death. Lingwu pressed his hand against Yan Ye's chest, directly over the glowing core of energy within him. His blood seeped into the cracks of Yan Ye's skin. A piercing scream tore through the air. Yan Ye's body erupted in crimson light, flickering violently as cracks spread across his form. The virus inside him went berserk. Across the battlefield, the undead trembled. Some collapsed instantly, but others stood frozen, uncertain. Yan Ye staggered, but his glowing red eyes still burned with hatred. You think this is enough to kill me? He whispered. Lingwu's entire body convulsed in pain. His life was being drained away. No, Qingyi gasped. Yan Ye is trying to absorb your blood to heal himself. Lingwu gritted his teeth. He had to end this now. But just as he gathered his remaining strength, his body gave out. The world around him darkened. And everything faded to black. Chapter 21. The death of Yan Ye. Lingwu's vision blurred, but he could still feel it. Yan Ye was not dead yet. His body trembled violently, still absorbing energy in a desperate attempt to regenerate. We can't let him live! A voice cut through the chaos. Zhao Qingyi rushed forward, a small vial of pale blue liquid in her grasp, the last remaining serum capable of neutralizing the virus. You can't do it anymore! Let me! She shouted. Gritting her teeth, she plunged the syringe straight into Yan Ye's core. A monstrous roar erupted from him as his entire body convulsed. This time, there was no coming back. Cracks spread across his flesh, splitting his body apart as if he were crumbling from the inside. He tried to stand, but his legs failed him. Do you think killing me is the end? Yan Ye rasped. And then, his body turned to ash. As Yan Ye disintegrated, Lingwu collapsed to the ground. His body was drained of life, his eyes losing their luster. In his final moments, he saw Su Yao rushing toward him, her face streaked with tears. Zhao Qingyi stood frozen, her hands trembling. Lived. Ling Wu smiled, softly, peacefully, as if he had finally found solace.
Am I still human? The question echoed in his mind. Then, everything faded into darkness.
The moment Yan Ye's body shattered, an eerie shift spread across the battlefield. The zombies stopped. Some collapsed instantly, as if drained of all energy. The monstrous evolved ones screeched in agony, turning feral without their master's control. Chaos erupted as the mindless creatures turned on each other, tearing each other apart in an uncontrollable frenzy. From a high vantage point, Lu Chen watched in disbelief. He's really dead. Su Yao gripped her weapon tightly, torn between relief and dread. We can't stop yet. The zombies are going berserk. Rather than dissolving into nothingness, the horde spiraled into disarray. Without leadership, they fought amongst themselves, but some remained standing, still dangerous. Han Bai unsheathed his knife, eyes burning with resolve.
We end this now. His command ignited a final charge. The remaining survivors raised their weapons, charging forward with renewed determination. Their fear was gone. The tyrant was dead. Amidst the burning ruins, Ling Wu's strength gave out completely. His body was cold. His consciousness slipped further away. Su Yao caught him, cradling his limp form in her arms. Ling Wu, don't leave me. Zhao Qingyi knelt beside them, her hands desperately searching for a pulse. But the moment she saw his wounds, her heart sank. No, she whispered, shaking her head, willing the truth away. Su Yao sobbed, gripping his hand tightly. No, you promised me. You promised you'd survive.
Ling Wu's gaze lifted to the sky, where the first light of dawn broke through the smoke. The world around him dimmed. And then, just before the void took him, a voice echoed in his mind. You can kill me, but the undead will never disappear.
You are only delaying the inevitable.
Yan Ye's voice resonated through the battlefield, carried by the wind. Everyone heard it. A chill ran through them. Han Bai clenched his weapon, his jaw tightening.
Is this just the final words of a dying monster, or a terrifying truth?
No one answered. No one knew.
But they did know one thing. Today, they had won. Whatever the future held today, humanity had reclaimed its right to exist.
Amidst the lingering chaos, Lu Chen raised his gun and roared, "Wipe them out!" The battlefield erupted once more. Gunfire rattled. Explosions tore through the remaining undead. One by one, the last remnants of Yan Ye's army fell. The screams of the damned faded into silence. The grotesque monstrosities collapsed, lifeless.
And then, the sun rose.
Its golden light spilled over the war-torn battlefield, chasing away the darkness. Humanity had survived. The cost was immeasurable. The losses were irreplaceable, but they were still here. Chapter 22. The Aftermath of the Apocalypse. The battlefield was now eerily silent. Yan Ye was dead, his undead army annihilated. But the price humanity paid was far greater than anyone had ever imagined. Su Yao knelt beside Ling Wu, her hands trembling as she touched his face.
Ling Wu, wake up!
His body was cold. Blood soaked the dry, cracked earth beneath him. His breath was weak, his lips pale. Life seemed to be slipping away from him.
Zhao Qingyi rushed over, panic flooding her eyes. We have to get him back now. She frantically checked his pulse. But there was no response. His body, after losing so much blood in the battle against Yan Ye, had fallen into a deep coma. No one knew if he would ever wake up, but they couldn't leave him here. Hurry! Take him back to the base! Sun Yao shouted, her voice breaking with emotion. Han Bai and Lu Chen lifted Ling Wu, carrying him as fast as they could toward the last remaining shelter. In the distance, the sun had risen. But no one felt victorious. Only fear remained. 3 days after the final battle, everything had changed. Humanity had survived, but the world would never be the same. The cities lay in ruins. Entire landscapes turned to wastelands. No electricity. No running water. The human population had dwindled to dangerous levels, only a fraction of what it once was. All that remained was dust
and ash. Lu Chen stood atop a crumbling building, looking down at the remnants of the old world.
We won, but was this really a victory? His voice was hoarse.
Zhao Qingyi stepped up beside him, exhaustion weighing on her features. No one knows, she answered quietly. But at least we're still here. Her words hung in the silence, a painful truth they all had to accept.
The survivors had no choice but to move forward. Han Bai, once a cold-blooded assassin, now found himself leading what was left of humanity. He understood one thing: without structure, without leadership, they would all perish. We need to gather everyone who's still alive. His voice was firm. Lu Chen nodded. We'll rebuild the shelter. But we need a plan. They divided into small groups, spreading out to search for survivors, scavenge supplies, and rebuild what little civilization they could. But they were not alone. In the shadows of the ruined city, other survivor groups lurked. And not all of them were allies. While Han Bai and Lu Chen worked to rebuild, Su Yao never left Ling Wu's side. 3 days. She hadn't slept. She barely ate. She just sat there, holding his cold hand, praying for a miracle. You can't leave me like this. Her voice trembled, her vision blurred from exhaustion. She remembered everything. Every battle they had fought together. Every time he had saved her life. Every time he had stared at the sky, wondering if he was still human. And now, when everything was over, she feared losing him more than ever. Zhao Qingyi stood nearby, placing a hand on her shoulder. Su Yao, you need to rest. But she shook her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. No, I won't leave. He will wake up. I know he will. She refused to accept a future without him. Despite her exhaustion, Zhao Qingyi continued to monitor Ling Wu's condition. She knew something was wrong. His injuries weren't normal. His body had changed in ways she couldn't explain. When she took a blood sample for analysis, what she found shook her to the core. This is impossible! His blood, once infected by the virus, was now completely clean. The virus was gone. Which meant, he doesn't have his powers anymore. Su Yao gasped. What do you mean? Zhao Qingyi bit her lip. He used to be able to control the zombies. But now he's just human again. Both of them fell silent. What did this mean? Was this a chance for Ling Wu to finally live a normal life? Or was it just another curse? No one had the answer. But one thing was certain. If Ling Wu ever woke up, he would never be the same again. Chapter 23. Farewell and a New Beginning. Sunlight filtered through the dust-covered window, casting a soft glow across the silent room. A faint breeze carried the scent of damp earth after days of rain. On an old wooden bed, Ling Wu stirred slightly, his fingers twitching as he took in a heavy yet steady breath. His eyelids fluttered, and slowly, he opened his eyes, his vision blurred as he adjusted to the dim surroundings. The first thing he felt was exhaustion, deep, overwhelming fatigue, but the searing pain that had once torn through his body was gone. As his consciousness fully returned, a choked voice broke the silence beside him. You're awake. Su Yao's dark brown eyes were red and swollen from sleepless nights. She sat there, still clad in her worn battle gear, fresh bruises lining her arms, but none of that mattered to her. The only thing she cared about was the man in front of her. Her hands trembled as she reached out, barely touching his, as if afraid this was nothing but a fleeting dream. Ling Wu frowned slightly, his voice hoarse from thirst. How long? Su Yao let out a soft, breathless laugh, but tears rolled down her cheeks. 7 days. For 7 days I thought you'd never wake up again. Ling Wu remained silent. His body was still heavy, but something felt different. He could no longer feel the undead. A strange emptiness crept through his body. For so long, even when he had denied it, Ling Wu had always known he shared a connection with Yan Ye and the zombies. But now, all of that was gone. No more voices whispering in his head, no more dark energy coursing through his veins. He was truly human again. How do you feel? Su Yao asked, concern lacing her tone. Ling Wu clenched his fist, testing his strength. The fatigue remained, but he knew. He had lost all of his powers. Nothing. It's all gone. Su Yao hesitated for a moment. That might be a good thing. He didn't answer immediately. For all the hatred he had harbored toward Yan Ye,
For all the times he had fought to protect humanity, he couldn't deny that he had once grown accustomed to that power. Now that it was gone, a hollow sensation settled in his chest.
Beyond their temporary shelter, the world was slowly beginning to rebuild itself. The massive hordes of undead were no more. The relentless waves of attacks had ceased. The scars they left behind were immeasurable. Cities lay in ruins. Lands were barren. People were scattered, lost, and struggling to find direction. At the survivor base, Hanbai, Lu Chen, and the others gathered for a meeting.
"We can't stay here forever," Hanbai stated, his tone serious. "This area is too heavily damaged, Ishuei. If we want to survive long-term, we need to find a new place, a land where we can rebuild civilization." Lu Chen nodded. "There are still old military research stations up north. They might still have resources. We'll split into teams and search for viable locations." The others agreed. They had fought long enough. They had seen too much death. Now, it was time to start over.
The next morning, as everyone busied themselves preparing for the journey ahead, Ling Wu stood off to the side, silently observing. Beside him, Su Yao watched as well. She knew what he was thinking. "Are you going with them?" she asked softly.
Ling Wu didn't answer right away. Hanbai, Lu Chen, Qingyi, they all had a shared goal: to rebuild a new world. But what about him? He had spent so long fighting, killing, and losing pieces of himself along the way. Now, for the first time, he had a choice. "I don't know," he admitted quietly. Su Yao turned to him, the soft light of dawn reflecting in her gaze. "If you don't know, then come with me." Ling Wu looked at her, and in that moment he realized he no longer had to be alone. As the sun climbed higher into the sky, Hanbai approached him. "Made your decision?" Ling Wu took a deep breath before shaking his head. "I won't be going with you." Hanbai raised an eyebrow but didn't seem surprised. "Do you have a plan?" Ling Wu glanced at Su Yao, who stood a short distance away. "We're leaving, but in a different way. No more battles. No more missions. Just finding a place where we can live as normal people." Hanbai was silent for a moment before nodding. "I get it, but if you ever want to return, the door will always be open." Ling Wu offered a faint, rare smile. "Thanks." A few hours later, as the rest of the survivors set out toward the horizon, Ling Wu and Su Yao walked in the opposite direction. No grand objective. No long-term plan. Just two survivors, heading toward the unknown, searching for a future they could finally call their own. For once, they were no longer warriors. They were simply people, looking for peace.
Chapter 24. A new civilization? The sun slowly rose, casting a gentle glow over the remnants of the old world. Ling Wu and Su Yao pressed forward, leaving behind the battlefield where they had sacrificed everything for survival. They had no clear plan, no destination, only the certainty that they could never return to the war that had taken too much from them. As they journeyed across the desolate lands, they soon realized that the world was no longer the same. The bloodthirsty zombies that once roamed freely had vanished, but so had the great cities. Only ruins remained, abandoned towns, shattered homes, and barren fields. Occasionally, they found signs of human presence. A smoldering campfire, footprints imprinted in the dirt. Survivors were still out there, but they were scattered and wary, unwilling to reveal themselves.
One day, while passing through a dense forest, they encountered a group of people. At first, both Ling Wu and Su Yao tensed, ready for a fight. But these strangers didn't seem hostile. They carried no heavy weapons, nor did they wear the tattered rags of wandering scavengers. They moved with discipline, their steps steady, their gazes sharp and resolute. The leader was a man in his 30s, his hair streaked with premature silver, his eyes as cold as steel. He studied Ling Wu for a long moment before speaking. "You don't belong here." Ling Wu tightened his grip on his blade, remaining silent. Su Yao hesitated, then asked, "Quote, who are you?" The man did not answer immediately. Instead, he glanced at his companions, before speaking in a calm yet enigmatic tone. "People like us are the future of this world." That night, the group allowed Ling Wu and Su Yao to accompany them to their shelter. Along the way, they spoke about themselves, They were not ordinary survivors. The virus had no effect on them. Despite being exposed to zombies multiple times, they never fell ill, never turned into monsters. Their bodies possessed a natural resistance to the infection. Ling Wu and Su Yao were stunned. For years, they had witnessed countless people succumb to the virus, had seen numerous failed experiments in search of a cure, yet this was the first time they had encountered a group of people who were truly immune. "We have always been here, surviving unnoticed," the silver-haired man explained, but the world was too chaotic to acknowledge us. Su Yao shook her head, still unable to believe it. "But why? Why are you immune?" The man smiled faintly. "We don't know. Perhaps it's genetic, or maybe it's something within our bodies. But one thing is certain, the virus has not disappeared. It is merely waiting." When they arrived at the group's shelter, Ling Wu and Su Yao were even more astonished. These were not drifters wandering aimlessly, nor was this a makeshift camp like those they had seen before. This was a functioning community. They had food, clean water, and homes constructed from salvaged remnants of the old world. Most importantly, they did not live in fear. Unlike others, these people could walk through infected zones without worrying about turning into monsters. An elderly woman, who seemed to be the leader of the settlement, finally revealed the truth. The virus was never completely eradicated. It has changed. According to their findings, the virus had adapted over time. Instead of spreading mindlessly, it had begun shaping a new generation of humans, people who could coexist with it without succumbing to its effects. Su Yao's eyes widened. "Are you saying humanity is evolving?" The woman nodded. "Exactly. Yan Ye was a failed stage of the virus, a being that spiraled out of control, but what remains now is stabilizing. We may not be the same humans as before, but at least we are not monsters." Ling Wu clenched his fists. "Then what will happen to the others? Those who don't have this ability?" The woman sighed. "They may still survive, but the new world will not be for them." When Ling Wu relayed this discovery to Zhao Qingyi, she immediately decided to return to study them. This could be the key to stopping the virus once and for all. If they could unlock the secret of this natural immunity, perhaps humanity could truly rebuild. Han Bai was skeptical, but he agreed to accompany Zhao Qingyi back to investigate. Meanwhile, Ling Wu and Su Yao remained undecided. Standing atop a hill, overlooking the peaceful settlement below, Su Yao whispered, quote, "What should we do?" Ling Wu remained silent. They could stay here and build a new life alongside these people, or they could continue searching for a truly safe haven. But did such a place still exist? Su Yao turned to him, her gaze filled with quiet determination. "No matter what you choose, I will go with you." For the first time in years, Ling Wu felt the emptiness within him begin to fade. He smiled. "Then we will find the answer, wherever it may be." As the sun dipped below the horizon, a new world was beginning to take shape. And this time, they would be the ones to decide its future. Chapter 25. A Promise Among Survivors. As the first morning after their crucial decision dawned, the shelter remained engulfed in an eerie silence. Outside, the air was no longer thick with the stench of death. There were no more guttural roars of zombies. But the scars of the apocalypse still lingered, etched into the souls of those who survived. A new world was beginning, and everyone had to make their own choice. Han Bai stood in the center of the shelter, quietly observing the people around him. They had fought together, suffered together, but now, the path ahead was clearer than ever. I'm leaving." His voice was resolute, yet it lacked the cold detachment he once carried. All eyes turned to him. "Zhao Qingyi has uncovered the final secrets of the virus, and I will help her find a way to control it." Zhao Qingyi remained silent for a long moment before finally nodding. "If there's a chance to understand it, we can't ignore it. Humanity has lived in the shadow of this virus for too long." But not everyone shared the same conviction. Some chose to stay, to rebuild a community, a home. They no longer wanted to keep running or fighting. They wanted to reclaim what had been lost, to find normalcy amid the ruins. "Perhaps the old world is gone," Lu Chen said, "but we can still build something new in our own way." Ling Wu and Su Yao listened in silence. They understood. Everyone had their own path. And they, too, had made their decision. As the others determined their fates, Han Bai turned to Ling Wu, as if already knowing the answer before he spoke.
You're not coming with us, are you? Ling Wu smiled, a calmness in his expression that had never been there before.
No, I've fought enough. Now I just want to find peace. Su Yao squeezed his hand tightly. She didn't need to ask. She didn't need to think. His choice was her choice too. We'll find a place where there is no war, no virus, no past chasing us. Han Bai was silent for a moment before clapping Ling Wu on the shoulder. You deserve that. But remember, if you ever need a home, we'll still be here. Zhao Qingyi studied Ling Wu for a long time, her silver-gray eyes filled with unspoken emotions. You're really sure? He nodded. She smiled softly, not with regret, but with acceptance. Once, she had thought she might walk this path with him, but now, she understood. Their paths had diverged. Then, until we meet again, Ling Wu. Until we meet again. No grand promises, no unspoken regrets. Just a quiet farewell between people who had once faced death together.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson, Ling Wu and Su Yao walked the long road ahead. They had no clear destination, no grand plan, but for the first time in years, they did not feel lost.
Do you regret it? Su Yao asked softly, her voice as light as the evening breeze. Ling Wu shook his head. No.
For the first time, I feel like I'm truly alive. Their figures grew smaller in the fading light, leaving behind a world still broken, but slowly beginning to heal. Standing atop a hill, gazing into the vast, uncertain world beyond, Su Yao whispered, "Do you think this world still has a future?" Ling Wu was quiet for a long moment. Then, he smiled. As long as we're alive, there's always hope. In that moment, they knew, no matter what lay ahead, they would never be alone again.